see. Councilmember Lawson, Jessica. Okay, awesome. Councilmember Horton. Okay, great. Well, we can get started into this meeting. This is my first meeting that I'm running as the chair of the Horns Committee, Housing, Neighborhood Service, and Redevelopment Policy Committee. Just to set the space, I would like to read the purpose of this committee, since it's my first time. So the Housing, Neighborhood Service, and Redevelopment Policy Committee's goal is to maintain high quality neighborhoods with a balanced housing stock by enforcing standards in relation to new resident development and considering new tools to promote sustainable infill development, and plan for redevelopment of strategic areas, including working with developers and landowners to leverage external resources and create public-private partnerships. All right, we'll do a call to order. And it looks like the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. So I would like to move to approve November 19th, 2025 minutes. Can I get a second?
I second.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawson. Great. Looks like we don't have any announcements. And we'll move on to new items under 4A, 2026 planning agenda for the year with Jessica Prosner, our Housing and Community Service Director, along with Andrea Wood, our Assistant City Attorney.
Good morning, everyone. Jessica Prosser, Director of Housing and Community Services. Just a reminder for my staff on the meeting today, please introduce yourself before you present, just for our new council members. That would be helpful. Just for awareness, Andrew, can we make it just a little bigger, I think, for everyone? So staff met with Chair Jackson a few weeks ago and talked about just sort of the routine things that come to Horns typically each year and what that cadence looks like. And we asked her for some ideas of topics that might be helpful, which helped inform the agenda for this month. And so this is just a time for the committee to really sort of slate things in that might be helpful. We have a few introductory presentations today to set the stage around housing and our community investment process, as well as just sort of a quick status update on the navigation campus. We have some things noted that we have typically each year, things like annual updates from the Housing Authority, some of our grant cycle processes, things like a quarterly update from Advanced Pathways to this committee, which you all could decide if you want to take to study session as well. So just some routine things that we typically have throughout the year and when those things fall. So that is on the schedule that is up on the screen and was in your packet. And at this point, we'll just listen and hear from the committee if there's other topics or things to consider that would pertain to this policy committee. And then we will work to make sure we slot them in to different months where we might have time, or if you have a specific thing you want to bring in a specific month, we can bring that in.
Great, thank you, Jessica. So with that, I'll turn it to my colleagues to see if the vice chair or members have any additional items that they'd like to add. I'll start with you, Councilmember Lawson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So Jessica, I know that on this committee, there was always a youth violence prevention update. Is that not on this anymore?
We can definitely add that in. That's what this space is for. So we have done that in the past, yes. There's also traditionally been a monthly update at Public Safety on the SAVE program. The Public Safety Committee asked for a couple of updates this year, probably 2 on the SAVE program. So okay, we can definitely slot that into this committee as well. And happy to, if you have a specific sort of month you're looking for an update, or you want it next month, whatever you think, we'll definitely get it slotted in.
Well, I guess, Chair, I'm sorry, can I continue just with my
Yes, please
question to
do.
Jessica? Okay. So Jessica, I know that this is housing, but I know that I just was on this committee last year and then maybe several years ago. What was it that you guys discussed in terms of youth violence? Because I know that there was an update, but what was the update like? Is it different than public safety or is it the same?
We would probably bring the same. And so, yeah, this committee is focused on housing, but we typically bring anything coming out of our department. So sometimes that's crisis teams updates. Sometimes that's also animal services. You'll see some things related to code enforcement on here as well, which, is associated with housing. So that update would be things like outcomes we're seeing, participants in the program, successes, pain points, things like that. I would say that that's kind of what we've updated on at public safety. We've also updated on like number of participants in the program, outcomes, success stories, things like that on a monthly basis. And so public safety asked for that. We don't need it on a monthly basis, but we would like it a few times this year.
Okay. I would just like to recommend, I know to the chair and to Councilmember Horton, if we could maybe just have an update just of the youth violence sometime within this year, just because I don't get to public safety, and I know I can look at the recording, but I do think it has some type of nexus to what we're kind of discussing here a little bit, just even though it's kind of maybe outside the norm, if maybe that could be possible for because it has been in previous meetings, not every month, but just maybe sometime in the process or the month. And I'll let you determine that, Chair Jackson. But I just would like to recommend that if that's possible.
Chair,
Okay. Thank you.
I would love an update as well. Just want to second Councilmember Lawson's recommendation. I would add if we could have one, maybe in the next 2-3 months, the first quarter, and then one at the fourth quarter of the year.
Great. Thank you both. Jessica, did you get that? Okay, great. And on that
Yeah, and
note,
Andrew, if you want to just take notes on a side column, maybe in column F or G, just ideas, we'll make sure you can see them real time and then we'll slot them into months.
beautiful. And on that note, I think I'd like an update, maybe end of quarter 1, beginning of quarter 2, around planning and development collaborations with affordable housing. I think just based off of some of the conversations I've heard around planning and development, affordable housing is a big sore point over there. So I think maybe we could put our two committees heads together and just come up with a report or some best recommendations, or just get on the same page as it relates to planning and development for affordable housing.
Definitely add that.
Great. Okay, well, I don't see a call for any other amendments or adjustments. So we can move on to item 4B.
Good morning, all. My name is Jesse Byrne. I'm the Division Manager for Community Engagement within Housing and Community Services. And before my staff member Scott kicks us off, for those of you that are new, such as Chair Jackson and Councilmember Horton, I'd like to just give a very quick overview of my division. So our official mission statement is that our division is really focused on ensuring the city of Aurora is responsive to the needs of diverse communities through building long-term relationships that provide feedback loops and connecting the community with resources, leading to the creation of social capital and beneficial outcomes. Our vision is that we envision empowering Aurora's diverse residents through community education, equitable representation, and building relationships, resulting in increased public trust and better quality of life. This presentation that Scott is getting ready to provide is one of several. different initiatives that is found within the Community Engagement Division. There are others that you will hear updates on in the coming months, such as our Civic Engagement Academies, our resource and referral guide, our IEP2 framework that we use in engaging with communities, not only within my division, but citywide, and various other types of programs and initiatives that we provide to the community. We also provide community feedback listening sessions to be able to hear residents in terms of their needs, thematic feedback that we can then bring back to city leadership. Build Up Aurora, which you might have heard, is also an initiative that we've supported in being able to hear resident voice. We really feel resident voice is important. And our staff also are the ones that typically support a lot of the ward meetings and town halls that occur as well. And so shout out to my team, very lucky to have them. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate having the opportunity to chat with you this morning about our 2026 neighborhood improvement grants. Next slide, please. So just to give you kind of an overview of the program, City Council every year is gracious enough to allocate $60,000 towards this. We then allocate up to $5,000 per project. This funding comes from our general fund. The program was designed to improve the appearance of Aurora neighborhoods while also strengthening the social fabric and organizational networks of community residents. Here you can see kind of the 5 goals of the program. We're looking to improve the physical condition of neighborhoods, enhance neighborhood pride and identity, promote neighborhood self-reliance, connect neighbors and foster a strong sense of community, and finally encourage placemaking by bringing assets into the neighborhood that encourage gathering and positive experiences. So really boils down to kind of 2 things: beautification and community building, and hopefully a mix of both. Next slide, please. So overview, again, we ask our potential applicants to attend one of 3 information sessions that we hold kind of in the beginning of the year. 2 of these are hosted virtually, and then we record one of those posted online for people that aren't able to attend. Those that you can see there are the dates. We've already had 2 of these meetings, one of the in-person versions as well as one of the virtual ones. Then we have our final virtual session coming up this Thursday, so really looking forward to that. We've probably had about 45 people attend so far, which is really good for our numbers. So really looking forward to what kind of projects we get in this year. All of our information and meeting links can be found there at our vanity URL, which is auroragov.org/neighborhood grants. After those information sessions, we then ask those potential applicants to meet with me, essentially to discuss project ideas and then receive what we call staff referrals. That's just referrals to other staff members here at the city that may be necessary for helping with the project, things like permitting, stuff like that. The application is going to be available on our website starting the 29th, so this Thursday again, and then it will be available until April 17th at 5 p.m. That's kind of around our typical deadline. And then, of course, any of the projects that receive funding will have to be completed and have all of their documentation turned in by October 31st of this year. Next slide, please. So we were gracious enough to get some feedback from the Horns Committee last year, kind of asking to increase the equity within our processes within the grant. So to that end, I wanted to give a couple updates around that. So we have updated our scoring criteria to consider ward representation. So applications from wards that have 1 or 2 applications will get the full 5 points. Wards that only that have 3 or 4 applications get half credit, and then wards with 5 or more applications in total end up with no points there. This is just to give you some context. This is out of 100 points, so it's not necessarily make or break, but it may be enough to kind of elevate people right there on the edge. We've also gone ahead and expanded our review committee, so now we're looking to include 2 members of our Civic Engagement Commission, which is a really great collab between the group and kind of us. Historically, it's been city staff, so this addition kind of adds an extra kind of community element to it, which we really appreciate. We're also then continuing to explore additional marketing avenues so that we can ensure a larger diversity of groups have awareness of and access to this grant. So this includes fulfilling one of our divisional goals of providing awareness around the grant to every ward and town hall meetings, as well as other engagement opportunities across the city. I really do appreciate those of you that are providing me that 10-minute time to chat about it at your town halls. Really love that opportunity, love chatting with people about this, so excited for that. Next slide, please. Here's a quick list of the awardees that we had last year. As you can see, it's a fairly diverse group of groups from community groups, homeowners associations, nonprofits. And again, you can hopefully see kind of the diversity that we're trying to cultivate within these grants. Next slide, please. There we are. So here are just a couple examples of some of the projects we've seen in previous years. So this is the Aurora Hills Community Garden. They used some funding to refurbish essentially an existing community garden. Really great project between the community and a local church. Next slide. This is the Blockmeisters group. They are operating out of Northwest Aurora. They essentially go through the alleyways, pick up large bulk trash, waste like that, and get rid of it through these large waste receptacles. Next slide. This one is the Eastridge Dump Day. As you can see, again, residents kind of come together to get rid of bulky waste within their community. Next slide. This is the Hoffman Heights Watchdogs group. They did a neighborhood improvement day where you can see they purchased a lot of like grass seed and landscaping trash bags. And the idea was residents could come by, pick it up, then work together on their neighborhood to improve the aesthetics. Next slide. This is a really great program. There's Jesse in the bottom left photo. This was the Path to Light Youth Celebration event. They celebrated local youth, their achievements, things like GPA, attendance at school, things like that. So really, really exciting event. Next slide. And finally, this is the Rebel Marketplace. This is a marketplace we assist with kind of value-added items like DJs, face painting, things like that. But it's a really neat local market where residents who grow and kind of create their own crafts then sell to other local residents. So really, really neat project. With that, I think that's the last slide, but go ahead and let's double check that, Andrew. I'm happy to take any questions.
I do have a couple questions before I kick it over to the co-chair and council member Horton. Are there any additional meeting times after the 3 sessions in case we want to refer constituents to this program?
So we do record 2 of those sessions and then we post like the best version of it online.
Okay.
So I always refer people back to that. And then of course, if there's more like particular questions people had, I'm always happy to chat. So feel free to always refer people to me.
Great. And then last question, can individuals apply? I noticed it was associations and some nonprofits, but can like an individual single person apply for the grant?
Great question. So individuals know what we ask for at a minimum is 3 people to kind of create a group. It doesn't need to be an official HOA or neighborhood group. We've had lots of, for lack of a better term, smaller kind of associated groups join us. For example, the Hoffman Heights Watchdogs, they're by no means an official HOA or community group. It's just a group of residents that said, hey, we want to have a really nice project come through. So great question though. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'll kick it to co-chair Lawson.
Okay, thank you, Chair Jackson. First of all, I want to thank Jesse and I want to thank Scott. Thank you for implementing the ward points. I really do appreciate that. That was something I didn't see, and I really thank you for that, for taking my recommendation on that. And I think this will be a lot better in getting more of the, making sure that it's kind of equitable across all wards, whoever wants to participate. So I want to thank you for that. In general, I know you guys are coming to my town hall. Scott, you're going to present. I just wanted to see at the end of this, like the October, when all of the applications are processed, is there any way, and this is question for the chair as well. Can you come back and give us the measurements of how many people, how many groups or individuals applied? Because what I want to make sure is that the marketing is good on this program. So, just especially with the change that the slight change that we had with adding the wards, I just want to make sure that there's not too much in my ward, like Ward 5, and maybe it needs to be in somewhere like Ward 3, Ward 2. So I just would like to ask maybe coming back with some measurements to this committee, just to make sure that there's not too much going in, or how many people did apply in my ward or other wards, and just making sure that we make sure that the equitable is kind of going for, we're not putting one all in one ward, but also too, just to make sure the marketing is good on this, because I think it's a great program. So
Yeah,
thank you. That's
absolutely. I would
my question and request.
love to. So yeah, from my perspective, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I'll second that. I think that's a really valid piece of feedback, and reporting back on the data will help us to tailor the program even more. All right, thank you, Chair Lawson. Councilmember Horton.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Thank Jesse. And really shout out Jesse to your team. Really appreciate all the work that you guys have done so far for Ward 1 and all the other forums being held. So, in terms of this program or in this grant, what is the historical what's the story behind it in terms of when was it established? And I'd like to know the history. Um, and how, like, average yearly, how many applicants does it normally receive?
Great questions. So the current iteration, what we call the Neighborhood Improvement Grant, has been around, I want to say, for about 4, maybe 5 years now. Before that, we had a very similar program called the Beautification Grant, I think it was. Operated a little differently, of course. Its goals were primarily really centered around beautification. And in my time here, when I started about 7 years ago, it was really focused on primarily HOAs. And what we ended up seeing was essentially that there was a lot of landscaping projects coming in, and that was primarily what we were covering, were landscaping projects for HOAs. And we wanted to kind of expand that, bring in the community building element, of course. And so again, about 5 years ago, I think it was, maybe 4, we kind of reimagined it, if you will, into the current iteration, and have been kind of working off of that since. But again, historically, it's looked very much the same. We've had $60,000 historically to distribute through it, and up to those $5,000 increments. There have been variations here and there, within that, of course, but those kind of primary pieces have remained. As far as applications coming in, of course, when we had COVID, that kind of really slowed our numbers down, slowed the growth down of the program, if you will. I've been doing grants now here at the city and previous work for about 15 years. And what I've seen here is kind of a steady growth, right? Like the more we invest on the front end and kind of getting the word out, the more applications we come in or have come in. Historically, we've gotten somewhere between, I would say, 15 to, on the high end, 20 applications coming in. Again, that kind of has been going up, especially as of last year when we really tried to further our engagement efforts on the front end. So last year, I think we had just over 20 come in. Again, it's one of those things, it's a competitive grant, so everyone's in competition with one another. So, at the end of the day, we can really, assuming everyone looks for that full 5,000, we can only do about 13 or 14 approvals a year, give or take. Not everybody asks for the full 5,000, so that does help us a little bit here and there. But that's generally what you're looking for. And from our numbers, we have seen more applications continuing to come in, like I said, with that kind of slow, steady growth. So I would anticipate we'll probably have between 20 and 25 this year, if not slightly more.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the context. And then I know the email that was sent out to City Council, it was really more like a press release, right? Lots of text on a page. Do you guys have a flyer that folks can post onto socials that's digestible, easy to read, and can hopefully generate some folks to get motivated to apply?
We do, yeah. We
Okay,
have
great.
sent that out to some of our channels, and I'll double check with our comms to make sure we're getting that out as well. Because yeah, I agree. I personally love the visuals. It's just a very clear, like, oh, look at this great project. So
Right, right. All right, great. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, well, it sounds like there was a big appreciation for some of the updates in regarding to equity and the various wards. Thank you for your efforts. And I don't think there's any follow-up items. Maybe if you could share that flyer with us so we could just have it easily to share to our constituents, that would be great. But with that, I think we are good to move on to 4C.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Carroll, and Sarah Pulliam, and I am the manager of community development for the city of Aurora. It's nice to meet all of you this morning and provide you information about affordable housing in the city. Next slide, please. This morning on the agenda, I'm going to talk to you about affordable housing, about our community investment financing rounds, how we use land banking, our funding sources, and take any questions you might have. Next slide, please. So what is affordable housing? A lot of people think that affordable housing is based on the amount of income you have rather than the fact that it doesn't matter what income you have. Affordable housing is the fact that you don't spend more than 30% of your gross income towards housing. So that could be at any income level. Next slide, please. What do we do in the city to address affordable housing? We use our community investment financing rounds. We've also done some land banking to make affordable housing more affordable. And we've used development and rehabilitation and preservation. Next slide, please. So what is our community investment financing? Well, the city of Aurora receives HUD funding, which is from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We also have some private activity bonds, and what we do is we open an application twice a year, and we provide those funds as gap financing for folks who are doing affordable housing to either preserve, rehabilitate, or develop affordable housing. Next slide, please. So in round one of the community investment financing rounds, we have our private activity bonds as well as our U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funds. And that is our biggest round because we typically get around 27 million in private activity bonds. And then in our second round and later in the year, around August, we end up with only what's left with our housing and urban development funds, and that's our smaller round. Over the last couple of years, we've seen those funds diminish quite a bit, or the applications diminish just because of the uncertainty at the federal level. You can see kind of the process of how the SIP round goes. We actually do a developer education. We open the round. We have an application that's in what's called neighborly. And then we have a review committee that consists of folks from our Citizens Advisory Committee on Housing and Community Development, planning, our finance group, our housing group as well at my level, and then we also have even had the treasurer from the city of Aurora work with us on that. And then next slide, please. So here's the timelines for the two rounds. One typically opens in February or March. Our first round this year will open in around mid-February. We keep it open for about 4 weeks, and then we close it and we review those applications for about a month. Then we come back to Horns. We present our recommendations, and then we go to City Council with those recommendations at study session after it's been approved or moved forward by Horns. That usually takes till August, and we send our letters, award letters to the developers. Next slide, please. So what is land banking? Over the last couple of years, the city of Aurora decided to use some of our HUD financing tools, which typically is Community Development Block Grant or CDBG, to actually purchase land. We have our first land banking over at 16th and Colfax, and what we did was we purchased that land and then we put it out on an RFP to find an affordable housing developer. You should see that affordable housing development start to come to life. It's been going through the process with planning and the development assistance, Office of Development Assistance. But what we do is we put a deed of restriction on that land for a period of 80 years. The developer develops the housing that is deed restricted to be affordable for that 80 years. And after the first 80 years, we have one additional deed restriction we can put for a second 80 years to keep that land affordable for a very long time, 160 years. And that's how we're using that land banking. We're doing that. We also have already some city-owned land, which we're doing that too as well. Next slide, please. So when our land banking is ready for, we have some that are ready for RFP, which is our 1445 Emporia and 1551 South Idalia, and then the greenhouse land. We're working with Real Properties in the Public Works Department to get those ready for RFP. We did a couple of those last year on RFP. They didn't come back quite the way that we wanted them to. So we're going to redo that early this year. The ones that are not ready for RFP, one is out on 6th Avenue at Catawba, and that one actually is the noise levels are too high for us to put affordable housing on, so we are leaving that one alone for right now. We are not sure what we're going to do with that little site. It's just a little bit over 2 acres. Then we have Havana and First Street, which is 8.72 acres. We went to Housing Colorado with that one. We did a charrette for that a couple years ago, which was pretty successful. And then we have the 16901, I think that's the 16901 East Colfax, and then the East 6th and Catawba, which is 2.5 acres, and then Chambers and 32nd Avenue. That one right now, the 17 acres is controlled by our Parks and Recreation and Open Space, so we haven't gone into with them to see how we're going to use it, but these are sites that are already owned by the city that we are looking for to utilize for affordable housing in the future. Next slide, please. So what is rehabilitation and preservation? Rehabilitation means repairing or upgrading a home, and we do that with single family owner occupied homes now. We have 3 different programs. We have an essential home repair, we have a minor home repair, and a housing repair loan program. I can tell you that our essential home repair and our minor home repair are well utilized. Both of those are grant programs. So while we do put a lien on the house and ask for those funds to be repaid, we don't put a lien on those homes and we don't ask for those funds to be repaid. The funds that we do ask to be repaid are the home repair loan program. And we don't utilize that resource very often. Those are for homes that are in dire repair needs, and those are for homes that need up to about $45,000 in repairs. And those are for like major systems, like their roofs, their gutters, furnaces, and like major ticket items. But while preservation means keeping our affordable housing affordable, we recently had on our last RFP in the first round last year for private activity bonds, we had one developer come to us. They had 2 sites that were affordable but needed to be preserved. So they won all of our private activity bonds to keep those affordable housing units preserved, and we're really excited about that because that's really our first preservation in the city of Aurora since I've been here for 3 years. So we're excited about seeing those come to life. They house mostly seniors in those units, so we were happy to have them ask for those private activity bonds. Next slide, please. We want to tell you about the consolidated plan funding resources. So we do get 3 sources of funding: the Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, which we call HOME, and Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. Those three have very, very specific uses. And so we, like for instance, CDBG can be used for a lot of different things. However, you cannot build a unit of affordable housing with it. You can do a lot of the soft costs and all of that, and then you can buy land with it. For home investment partnerships programs, you can build units with it, but you can't buy land with it. So there's like these trade-offs with it. And the Emergency Solutions Grant can only be used to help those or experiencing homelessness, or that they may be imminently becoming homeless. Other resources that we have are urgent need resources. So we had a lot of ARPA money. We had a lot of CDBG, CV, or coronavirus money that came in. Our private activity bonds, which those are from the state. And what we do with the private activity bonds is we allocate them at the city level, and then we give them to the Aurora Housing Authority, because they have a bond council that can follow through on all the allocation of those fundings. And then we get other grants resources when available. We do actually apply for a lot of grants. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. And so when we get those, we use them as they are required to be used. Next slide, please. Private activity bonds, I wanted to tell you what those are. They're a financing tool. They are tax exempt, and they have to be used for a public purpose. We do have to give them to a private developer or a nonprofit, and they are responsible for the repayment of those. The city is not, and then we are only a conduit to help get the affordable housing built. So it just is like pass-through money for us. It comes to us, and then we end up signing it over to the Aurora Housing Authority, and they help the developer with all of the legal things that are behind the private activity bonds. Next slide, please. So again, what does the city do? We just approve the issuance of the bonds. We confirm the project serves a public purpose. We ensure affordability requirements are met. We often conduct a required public meeting and assign the bonds to the Aurora Housing Authority no later than September 15th. They do not count against our general obligation debt, and we do not pledge those to our taxing authority. Next slide, please. So CDBG, our services must meet a national objective, and those national objectives are to principally benefit low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention and elimination of slum and blight, and meet needs having a particular urgency. They cannot be given to individuals. They must, however, serve low and moderate income persons who may directly apply for the services. So that what that means is we would pay a contractor or someone who is serving that low and moderate income person, but not directly give any cash benefits to a person. We can serve low and moderate income areas and nonprofit 501c3 organizations and for-profit businesses as well. Typically, our contractors are for-profit businesses. Eligible uses are like housing rehabilitation, land banking, housing counseling, which we do as a public service at the City of Aurora, and then economic development, but that must result in the hiring of at least one low and moderate income person. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Andrew.
Looks like Andrew's clicking it. Maybe Andrew froze.
Uh-oh.
It's all good. I forgot to mention, thank you all for joining early morning as well. So we'll just work the kinks out.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes,
I think you,
yes,
if
it's
you
just not
just,
in presentation mode.
yeah.
Clicking it. I'm trying. to
See, and then if
see
you
it.
hit from current slide in the left underneath that, right
From
down,
current-
down.
Oh, here.
There you go. Oh,
Oh,
it went
but I
to the,
still have
oh,
to go back.
there
Okay.
it is. Perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank
You're
you, Michelle.
welcome.
So there, thank you. Home, again, 100% of the funds must be used for housing activities, but we do have to set aside 15% of those funds for what are called CHODOs, or community housing development organizations. The program recipients must be nonprofit organizations or developers or low-income individuals seeking financial assistance to purchase a home. Again, no cash benefits go directly to any person. They go for things like down payment assistance, et cetera. And so the lender actually receives the funds. And then affordable housing development is an eligible program and service, are like affordable housing development down payment assistance programs. And I'm happy to tell you that the city of Aurora now has a down payment assistance program that we received funding through Prop 123, and it's up and running. And then we also have to provide that 15% CHODO operating assistance, and that may not exceed $50,000. So we do have a CHODO, and we've been working with them for a couple of years now. Next slide, please. ESG, 100% of those funds must be used to prevent homelessness and to assist persons experiencing homelessness. Again, individuals cannot receive these funds directly. They go to nonprofit agencies only. And then these eligible service programs are services for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness, homeless outreach, and homeless shelter operations. We do have a homelessness services team. We do have a homeless outreach team at the city of Aurora. They do a really great job. And then we do have a couple of nonprofits that receive ESG funding for rapid rehousing and shelter services. Next slide, please. So all of our city funding agreements are structured to ensure full compliance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development affordability. We worked really hard on those agreements over the last couple of years to make sure that we were meeting all of the federal regulations, and we also charge a 2% financing fee for all of the loans that we give for our affordable housing developments. So as we progress in this policy committee, you'll get to start seeing all of the program income that we bring in, and we take that program income and we recycle it back into our programs and into our affordable housing development. So we use every single dollar that we get back to develop more affordable housing or do rehab and preservation. Next slide, please. Next slide.
I'm pushing. Yep, I'm pushing it. It is not going.
Sarah, maybe just keep going and we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Everybody has it in the packet.
Well, there it is. That's the
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
And I know I just spilled out a lot of information.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that presentation, Sarah. A lot of information, a lot of ground to cover. Thank you for being very thorough. I'm still soaking it in and even thinking maybe I'll revisit these slides. But I'm going to pass it over to my co-chair, Lawson, to see if you have any questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Sarah, thank you for the very good presentation. I've been on council for a while, but it's always good to get refreshers on all of this. Just a question for you, and this might be for, I know, have we been getting any housing choice vouchers, or has that with the federal government, has that went down, decreased? Or and I know the housing authority deals with this, but I just wanted to know about that, because I know when we do go to DC, probably not maybe with the current administration, but I know what we have done, we have advocated for additional housing choice vouchers. So do you have any information on that?
So our team, the Housing and Community Services, does not receive housing choice vouchers. I do know that the navigation campus received some sort of vouchers, but I don't believe those were housing choice vouchers.
Oh, really? So we don't, even through our housing authority, we don't really have a number of, Jessica, can you maybe answer that? The housing choice vouchers don't go through the housing authority?
They
The
do.
Aurora
They
Housing
do go
Authority?
through the housing authority.
Yeah, they go
Okay.
through the housing, they do go through the housing authority. I have not been notified that the number has changed, so it has
Okay.
stayed stagnant even with the current administration.
Okay.
That number has not changed that I'm
Changed
aware
for
of.
that.
We can definitely follow up on that and get back to you.
Okay.
I know it's been in our legislative priorities in the past. And
Right.
then, as Sarah said, we did receive some housing vouchers through the state as part of the funding for the navigation campus. So the state gave us funding for the purchase and construction of the navigation campus, as well as I believe it's 35 vouchers ongoing for the navigation campus to
Okay.
help
But
people get
the
housed that are
number,
there.
but the number for the housing vouchers that, the housing choice really has been the same since over the years, the same kind of number that
Correct.
we've talked about. Okay.
As far as I'm aware of, I'll make a
Okay.
note to follow up with the housing authority and just ask, but I haven't
Okay.
heard that anything has changed at this
And
point.
the reason I bring that up is that sometimes I get constituents that ask that question. So, just about those type of things. So I was just for, I mean, just for knowledge base, I would just like to just maybe know if you could let me know about that, or maybe if the other committee members are interested in that. Just another question too. So how does the city define, we see more individuals or more families, individuals and families, and they stay in extended stays. So we see a lot of people, individuals are staying in hotels now, because they can't afford to even get an apartment. How do you guys define, what's the definition? Do you consider those individuals and families as housed or semi-housed or not housed? If you have individuals who are staying in extended stays, and that's how they're living, they can't afford anything. So this is what, we see it around the country as well. You even also hear people who are living sometimes in storage units and things like that to survive or to just make ends meet. So I'm just asking, not so much how do you define those individuals, just curiosity for the definition.
Yeah, we would consider those very vulnerably housed. So
Okay.
there's the definition of homelessness, which has a few different categories
Okay.
based on HUD. So they're not literal homeless on the street, but they're vulnerably housed. We might categorize that as a transitional housing piece, especially if they're in a program where they're being placed in something like an extended stay as they're waiting for more permanent housing. But yeah, they would be vulnerably housed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. That's all the questions I have.
So thank you, Co-Chair Lawson. I'll kick it to Councilmember Horton.
Yeah, can you guys walk us through and I know this may be also part of the other policy committee ped, is when someone wants to come into the city of Aurora, build housing, um it's not an expectation that there's affordable housing built into their plan. Is it dependent on what does that relationship look like?
So we have no expectations for them to be a developer per se, but what we would encourage them to do is meet up with a developer to learn more about how development. And the other thing we would do is we would pair them up with somebody in planning so that they could start to look at what a development would look like for them if they have no experience.
Mm. So, okay, that's great to know.
So
Sorry,
there's no,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead, Jessica.
So there's no requirement for a market rate developer to add affordable housing units to their project. So we don't have any policies around that. It's really self-selecting as they would come in with a project. We have seen some of the larger kind of greenfield developments in Northeast Aurora that have set aside a piece of property where we're seeing some affordable housing come in, but there's no requirement for that for either a number of units or in a larger scale development for a specific piece of property. We're seeing some interest, but typically it's standalone affordable housing projects coming in on pieces of land and often a lot of infill.
Mm. And then when you say market rate developer, so what that sounds like there's classifications of different types of developers.
So I'm just referring to anything that is not sort of capital A affordable, deed restricted affordable housing. So this would be anything that's market rate to me is just anything where it's not like subsidized or affordable housing. So any apartment building coming in or any single family or mixed use project coming into the city where people are paying market rate rent. So that's what I mean when I say market rate. I just mean they're paying the general market rate rent.
Okay, God, thank you for the clarification. And then how does Aurora compare with other larger municipalities in Colorado when it comes to uh affordable housing? I know that's probably a very big question and very broad. Um, yeah. I mean, do we offer more affordable housing, less, about average? Um, yeah.
Yeah, so if we're looking at it kind of per capita piece for the state, obviously Aurora, Denver, Colorado Springs are some of the larger municipalities. Aurora has historically had some like a higher ratio of multifamily housing than some other communities when we look at that. And so that's going to proportionally provide more affordable housing probably per capita. However, when we're looking at new projects coming in, there seems to be interest in Aurora, similarly to the other cities. So when we look at, say, the tax credit applications coming in on an annual basis coming from the whole metro area, we're seeing, a few at a time, sometimes anywhere from 2 to 5 coming in from Aurora. Denver may have more like 8 coming in for applications, and then a few sort of scattered out with the other suburban areas of the metro area. So there's interest for sure in Aurora. I would say on that unit basis, there's a lot of things that come into play there. There's other cities, for example, Denver has more funding that helps incentivize affordable housing. However, it's more costly to build housing in Denver. So there's just sort of a push-pull there. We could provide you with more information just kind of on specifically the number of units. We just started tracking the number of units of affordable housing we have in Aurora about 5 years ago. So we could see what our percentage increase is each year in terms of investment.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. Um, okay. And then, yeah, I mean, just to make a note that, in Ward 1, we have such a high percentage of renters. And I know that is a prime topic for our concern in the area, is affordable housing. And something I think will be good for us to, for me to continue to do my research and learn more. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Councilmember Horton. Kind of going off of Councilmember Horton's points, how is low income housing, because we're defining affordable housing as not spending 30% of your gross income. So is low income housing being tracked as well, where they have the caps for income for you to be able to like occupy that unit at a lower rate?
Yeah, so it's usually based on average median income or AMI. And so when we have a project, typically what we're seeing is a mixture of anywhere from 30%, which would be very low income, up to 120% of AMI. Most of our HUD funds restrict everything at 80% of AMI. There are some more flexible funding, things like Prop 123 funds and some of the funding from the state where it can go up to 120%, but typically you're looking at income level, and then a certain amount of units in that project are set aside for those different income levels. So when you apply, you have to do proof of income and show where you're at, and then on an annual basis, sort of recertify.
And do we do any research on like the average income in Aurora and how many units, a person with that income could, actually live in? And, just tying this back to like the planning and development collaboration I suggested at the beginning, because the massive projects that have just been built across from the mall, I was looking at their rent this weekend, and for 657 square foot studio, it's 1957 is the base rate. And so I don't understand who is going to be able to afford that. And so are we matching, okay, this is our standard or our minimum wage in Aurora. This is our average income earners in Aurora, and how many units could, you know, service them? Like, are we doing our people justice? Are we setting them up for success when it comes to affordable housing?
We can look at that. So yeah, the rent rate goes with that sort of sliding scale of income. And for example, that the projects over there right near the AMC, we do have an affordable housing project going in over there that's for seniors. And yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have the number of units, but when we look at what they can afford, that is prescribed, and those average income pieces come through every year from HUD, based on the metro area or the MSA area, with specific targets for what someone can afford at that AMI level. So that unit that's at 1900, just for example, if it's a family of 4 and 80% of AMI, they might be paying 1200 instead. So it would be sort of on a sliding scale. So it just depends. We can dive deeper into sort of how the affordability works, and how people qualify for the affordable housing. And I made a note, and we can come back with that, and we'll add that to the list for a later presentation, if that would be helpful.
Yes, thank you so much.
Chair, can I just ask one question to Jessica? And
Absolutely.
this might be something that I want maybe put on the list. So Jessica, since we have entered into the Prop 123, do you know how many units that we have done, or maybe we could add that to the list to talk a little bit about that? Because when we were talking about when all those bills came about the land use, one of the things that we were fighting for was where we were doing the affordable housing. And we were one of the first municipalities to actually enter in Prop 123. So is there something, do you have from the time Prop 123, we actually entered in there, how many affordable housing units we have done so far? And if you don't have that number, maybe if the chair would be acceptable to get that information added to all of this affordability discussion.
Yes, I agree.
We can come back with an update on Prop 123. I know our community development team has not just looked at the number of units supported, but also properties that have been purchased by private developers for land banking. And so we can do kind of an impact of Prop 123 so far. We are also tracking those numbers, right? Because we said we were going to hit a certain percentage, and then in 2025 we saw the market just drop off for multifamily housing, and so the sort of economic climate changed, and we weren't seeing the same rate of increase of a few hundred units per year. But we'll come back with a Prop 123 update for you.
Thank you. All right, so we've got about 30 minutes left in this meeting. I feel good about affordable housing. It sounds like we'll come back and have more discussion around it. So with that, we can move on to 4D.
Good morning, Sarah Pulliam, Manager of Community Development, here to give you the Community Investment Financing Round for the 2025 Summer Round. I apologize for earlier walking around and trying to get where I needed to go. So next slide, please. So as I explained in the previous slides and presentation, we do a community investment financing round twice per year. And this is to work on our housing strategy policies so that we foster a balanced and sustainable housing supply for the city of Aurora. We use several different strategies, and so we're going to talk through what that looked like in our previous round. Next slide, please. So the application components are the alignment with the housing strategy, meeting an identified housing need in the community. The demographics to be served by the project reflect the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Average median income to be served by the project, cost effectiveness, so that we're leveraging our funds and getting a good return on investment and available city funding and resources. Next slide, please. So for the summer 2025 round, we opened it on August the 28th, 2025. Notices of note for the NOFO were sent out in an email blast, went in the newspaper, on our website, and through our neighborly portal. On September 1st, the application opened, and on September 30th, the application closed. On October 1st, we compiled the applications for review. We only received 4 applications, and before the applications were completed, the reviews were completed, 1 applicant dropped out of the application. And so we removed that application from the review cycle. On October 15th, we presented the pre-awarded projects to our Citizens Advisory Committee on Housing and Community Development. And we are now bringing those recommendations to Horns January the 21st. Well, now January 27th, I believe. So we're proud to present these recommendations to you. Next slide. We had a review panel that reviewed the applications on December 12th, 2025. We had 1 person from Finance Administration, 2 from Community Development, and 2 from our Citizens Advisory Committee for Housing and Community Development. Next slide, please. We had $3 million in home funds and $2 million in CDBG funds available. And we received applications of 4, like I said, 4 applications applied. They asked for $5.75 million, and we only awarded $2 million. The number of units already in the pipeline that were on the applications was 81. And so the total units in this application round were 81, meaning that they had already previously applied. And so we didn't increase our pipeline by any units. Next slide, please. This is how it panned out. We had Sanctuary on Potomac come and ask for $750,000 in home funds, and Trolley Park asked for $3 million in home funds, and Trolley Park asked for $2 million in CDBG funds. All of these are Aurora Housing Authority projects. Next slide, please. Sanctuary on Potomac is at 1290 South Potomac Street in Ward 4. It has 43 units, and it's targeting at 30 and 50% AMI. They requested $750,000 in home funds, and we recommended no dollars. Next slide, please. Trolley Park Apartments is at 1445 Dallas Street in Ward 4. There are 38 units that target 50% and 60% AMI. They requested $3 million in home and $2 million in CDBG, and we recommended $2 million in CDBG. Next slide, please. Are there any questions? And do you approve moving these recommendations to study session?
All right, let's start with questions. I'll go to my co-chair, Lawson.
I have no questions, and I approve this moving forward to study session.
Thank you, co-chair. Councilmember Horton.
Yeah, can you go back to the Potomac slide? Oh yeah, one more before that.
Right there.
What was this is so interesting. And really just point of clarification, what was the rationale of $0 on a request that was 750,000? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes. So
this project is already under construction. It received no HUD funds previously in any other round. And in order for them to receive HUD funds, they have to do what's called an environmental review. Having no HUD funds previously in this round, they would have had to stop all construction and cease and desist basically until we could get an environmental review done. That would mean that that would take almost a year, because we wouldn't have to just do a regular environmental review. We would have to do an environmental assessment, and they would also have to get a phase 1 environmental, which means we're digging in the soil, we're looking for soil issues and all kinds of things. So I spoke with the Aurora Housing Authority. I gave them the rationale for no dollars, and they were like, "We appreciate you thinking through this." And so they already understand they're not getting any recommended dollars, and that was for the reason.
Okay.
Additionally, I just want to add this project overall received $8 million from the city of Aurora. So the Aurora mental health portion received $7 million. And then we did invest over $1 million of ARPA in the project almost 3 years ago when they were starting all the planning process. Now they're in construction. And so the city did invest in this project from an affordable housing component just a few years ago already.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we'll do it. Co-chair Lawson approves. I approve. Councilmember Horton.
Sorry, I approve.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You as well, Sarah. All right. Okay, we've got 4E homelessness agenda for 2026.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Kuiper. I'm the manager of homelessness here at the City of Aurora. And I am here today just to give you guys an update of the homelessness division and what we plan to bring into Horns committee this year, as well as an update on the navigation campus. Next slide. And then next slide again. All right, so I plan to bring 3 main things to council throughout the different months throughout this year. The first is program updates for our homelessness division. We have an outreach team here at the City of Aurora that does outreach and case management with folks that are living in the streets unsheltered. So I will bring in some updated numbers about what we did in 2025 as a city outreach team for you guys. I will also be bringing our notice of funding opportunity recommendations in the fall to this committee. We work as a grantee, so we give out, or a grantor, sorry. So we give out funding that comes from the Emergency Solutions Grants, from the Home TBRA, which is federal, then public safety, as well as marijuana funding, and all that funding goes into different nonprofits in the community that are also helping with the homelessness. And then also we have the point in time counts. So we'll come and talk about that. Today, this morning, is actually the 2026 point in time count. So the team, along with volunteers, are out doing that now. All that data will get sent up to the federal level and then come back down to kind of see the state of homelessness, not only in our region, but on the federal level as well, and the nationwide level. So we usually get that back from the federal level in fall. So once we have that, we'll come in and present on it too. I will also be bringing grantee updates here. So we will be starting our 2026 funding soon. And so I plan on bringing both Q1 numbers and Q3 numbers from all of our grantees here so that we can see how they're doing throughout the year and just have that transparency. And then I will also have quarterly Aurora Regional Navigation Campus updates, and Advanced Pathways, our controller, will also be here to give those updates. Next slide. All right, so some updates right now for the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus. We have gotten so far the November and December reports. Advanced turns them in monthly by the 15th of the month, so we'll get January numbers around February 15th. And then they also do quarterly reports as well to us, and annual. So in November, tier 1 was the only tier that was open. There was an average of 159 beds filled that night. December, tier 1 had an average of 264, and then they were also able to open tier 2 and tier 3. So they had an average of 10 people in tier 2 and then an average of 5 people in tier 3. I will say that I pulled preliminary numbers from our system that are not finalized yet, but just looking at the cold weather. And overall, it is looking like this past weekend with the super cold weather, they're having about 300 to 380 people in the campus at night. So their numbers are continuing to grow of people seeking shelter there. And then tier movement is something that we're also looking at. So from tier 1 to people moving into tier 2 in December, there was 36 people that moved up in tiers, and then there was no tier movement from tier 2 to tier 3 in December. Some ongoing information that I want to give you guys an update on. The plumbing, it was able to get fixed on Friday the 23rd. They did have to pull up the concrete, so that had to cure overnight. And then yesterday, they went ahead and they ran cameras through all of the piping to ensure that there was no blockage and to ensure that the crack that was in the system was completely fixed. And then when I spoke with them yesterday at about 4 p.m., they were continuing to stress test the system. So what they're doing there is just sending a lot of water through the sewer line to ensure that it's not going to break again and make sure that everything is fully fixed and curated. So I've not gotten an update today, but assuming that the stress test went well, the bathrooms and showers should be completely open and operable today. And I'm hoping to get a final update this morning that they are up and going as well. Some other things is just working on tier 3 and getting those open. We are also expecting that the pet kennel is open by the end of February. We are expecting that, I'm so sorry, I forgot. We're expecting that the tiers are open by the end of February, the pet kennels open by the end of February. Very long-term planning that we're still looking at is getting an outdoor recreation area. So we don't have a time frame for that yet, as we're still exploring funding and other options for it, but it is something that we're looking at and we are planning to provide, as well as long-term planning for those respite beds. So that people are not being discharged from the hospital to the streets. So those are also in planning and in the works for the ARNC. And then next slide. All right, and then so I want to kind of give you an overview on what I will be bringing data-wise here throughout the year. So I kind of mentioned that we are a grantor. This year we went ahead and we kind of gave everyone the same metrics that they will be reporting out on so that there's just consistency across all of our grantees. So we'll be looking at, for our shelter reporting measures, the occupancy rate, how many beds they're filling. We'll be looking at their average permanent housing rates. So looking at how many people are exiting from the shelter into permanent housing. The goal there is 35%. That goal is because that is the national average. So that's how we used goals and figured out what we want their goals to be, was looking at the national average, and we're wanting our grantees to at least hit that. So then we'll also be looking at average length of stay. We're looking for about 180 days or fewer in shelters. And then for our rapid rehousing and housing prevention reporting measures, we will be looking at the average days from program entry to housing with a goal of 30 days or less. We'll also be looking at the percentage of household exits into permanent housing with a goal of 80%. And then also looking at clients maintaining housing 12 months after they were housed. And the goal for that is 85%. Next slide. Right. Any questions about what we plan to come to Horns with this year?
Yeah, I've got some questions. One thing, so I met with Jim from Advance, and he gave me just some numbers that are a little off from the ones you're reporting. So I just really want to make sure that we're getting the data for how many people are in tier 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely.
You know, clean across the board. And then it also just, I want to make sure like Jim and you and Jessica are in communication and on the same page as well when it comes to reporting out. And if you could include resident feedback, whether that's snippets or a video or anything from the residents in your reports as well, just so we can hear from the people who live there. And I think those were my main concerns for now. And I will pass the mic to Vice Chair Lawson.
I'm not going to go through an email that I sent out yesterday to you guys, but because you guys pretty much know what this resident said. But I guess my concern, I thank you for fixing the plumbing, but can you just verify with me on the navigation part with the plumbing? There's no mold in there. Is there mold that you notice? Okay.
Yeah, we did mold testing throughout the full first floor, and the testing that came back was normal levels of like humidity within the air. There was nothing that the mold testing had showed for the first floor of concern. So we did the navigation center, the day center, and tier 1, tier 2.
Okay. I guess the question is, the individuals who are in the center, are they, and I don't know how to say this because I'm just kind of going off of something. Are they active gang members? I'm just curious on that. Your people on staff, and are they threatening guests?
We do ask, part of the operator contract is that Advance is running background checks on people that they are hiring. So with that, there is not known gang members that I know of on staff, and I do not think that Advance would hire people if they had something on like a criminal record. So not to my knowledge.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. I sent over something from a resident that lives there that had a lot of concerns. Jessica's aware of it. And I'm hoping to get a report on what this resident who is living there, it's multiple issues that they addressed. Also some pictures of some stuff that they had sent that they're facing medically. So I'm not going to put it on here, but I just hope that email can be addressed, or that resident can even be contacted to kind of see what's going on with that. So thank you for the update. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I will just add to that as well. We are working, with the constant resident, I'm not going to say resident, I'm going to say guest feedback, right? Where we're getting that. And then that's part of what Advance is bringing to us weekly. We meet with them weekly. We're also asking them for success stories. We've actually gotten some good ones. And we're talking with Mayor Pro Tem Coombs about doing an update on the navigation campus at the winter workshop on the 7th. So we should have more of that data and stories and things like that, as well as some other issues that are coming up, just through channels that we'll provide an update on as well in a couple of weeks. We just had this planned already and wanted to make sure we showed you when we would be coming back throughout the year to provide updates as well.
And then, Chair, can I just do a follow-up? And Jessica, yes. I appreciate the good stories, but I also believe in transparency, and I believe in reality, that there has been a few issues at this, with of a center like this. We have to look at those things. But I think, yeah, the good stories are good too, but also in that presentation needs to be the challenges that we took over an older building. The Crown Plaza has been there a long time, and maybe there were some things that we proactively did. I'm not sure, but I think we also need to put those realities out there as well, and that it hasn't been all smooth sailing. And I think that that's really important. I hope that we can talk about that as well. I'm a realist. I think, telling those truths, the good things, but also the bad things sometimes, even if we don't want to discuss them, but it also tells about how the challenges and how we're dealing with those things, especially in the situation that we are with an older building as well. And not just the plumbing, just some of the things that have been reported. Because I get questions from some of my residents saying, hey, is this working? I need to be able to report to my residents at my town halls to say, and I like to make sure that they're getting the reality, so I think that that's really important as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just follow up to that real quick because I did meet. I've been following this closely. I got a briefing from Jessica and everybody. I met with Jim, and just the points that they gave is that, at that council meeting with the plumbing issue, they were 60 days in operation. They made a call to open up for cold weather, even though they knew the building wouldn't be ready, but to give shelter to folks. It sounds like it's some growing pains. So we'll definitely keep a close eye on this. And thank you, Vice Chair Lawson, for bringing up, constituents' perspectives and being transparent. I completely agree. All right, Councilmember Horton.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for raising the concerns around transparency, Councilmember Lawson, and echoing what Councilmember Jackson and Lawson both shared around the navigation center in terms of being as proactive as possible, given that the navigation center is getting a lot more usage from folks who are unhoused. And I know funding was just recently approved at the beginning of this month for Advance to add more staff to be able to serve the clients that are coming in. My question is there proactive measures that Advance and the city can do to let the community know about the progress of Advance? Be that, here's a timeline of when things are going to open, to, hey, there was this issue, we're proactively working on it or reactively working on it, whatever it may be.
Great. Thank you for that call for proactive. Does anybody, Jessica or Stephanie, off the top of your head, is this something you're thinking about with proactive communication? It looks like Roberto has his hand raised.
Yeah, I'll jump in. It's your ears were ringing. We've actually been talking internally with the communications department, with Jessica's team and Stephanie's team, and actually exchanging emails just yesterday and today about updating and circling back on some of the messages I sent around cold weather activation, but also the sewer problems and ongoing, and creating more of a cadence for the council and the broader community, but certainly council first, to provide updates on where we're at with numbers, where we're seeing differences year over year, some of the challenges, but having more frequency there. That was also the plan we proposed to Councilmember Coombs, as Jessica mentioned, to have a presentation of the winter workshop. We have a little more time, we can get into a little more issues, we can talk in depth. So beginning there, but also with some email communications, we're putting together a plan with the communications department to start telling those stories, fair, transparent about what's going on there, how's it happening, how Advance is working to address those issues. I think some real good numbers in terms of being able to see what our capacity was with the Day Resource Center a year ago, where we were like at 125, 150. Now we're in the 250 to 300. So we are housing people and keeping people safe, which is a good thing. How we do that inside the building is also important, and how we provide those services effectively is important as well. Given that we're a couple months in, we have some growing pains, as you mentioned, but we want to make sure that we're communicating those, the program and how we're working. So yes to your answer, and we'll start with the winter workshop, probably have another email communication between now and the workshop, and then set as part of the discussion or presentation how we'll be doing that moving forward after the winter workshop on February 7th.
Thanks, Roberto. Yeah, I just want to make a note that, yes, touting how many individuals are being served, or at least, being provided shelter, is a, um, for lack of a better words, a good thing. And right, at least from what I have seen in terms of videos and photos from within the facility, if that's not aligning with quality expectations, then touting the number of who is being sheltered is irrelevant. From at least from what I have been hearing around the navigation center. So something I think for communications to really consider is, how do we tell both sides of the story of growth, in a way that is cognizant of the real experiences that folks have within the building, both good and bad, and what's getting out there in terms of the dominant narratives already around the navigation center. Because I know, for at least from my perspective, the city has invested a good amount into this, and I know from what I've heard from all of you all, we want to make sure it's done well. And yes, we can say it's growing pains, but in growing pains, there's a lot of impacted individuals. So yeah, I'm glad the conversations are happening, and look forward to seeing what's put together to make sure we get the full story out there around the navigation center.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Horton. And I'll just add on with that marketing piece. Please help us to understand the journey of the guest or the residents. Help us to even understand why the language you use. Why do we call them guests, not residents? Help us to understand the processes that you are putting in place around safety. When someone walks in, what are the questions they're asked? And then I got great feedback from a community member. What Councilmember Horton is touching on is dignified housing. So we don't only just want to house people, we want them to be seen, validated, and dignified. So asking yourself, would you stay at the navigation center? Would you sleep in tier 1? Would you sleep in tier 2? And would you sleep in tier 3? Why or why not? So just, having those reflective points of feedback as well. Is great. But again, with marketing, just tell the story. Help us to understand what the residents are going through from day to day, balance out with good and bad. And I echo a lot of what my fellow colleagues have said on this call. Okay, but with that, we are nearing the end. I noticed there was an agenda item 4F, which was 2026 planning agenda for the year. And this one looks like it's a little bit more beefy.
It's just a repeat. I think we
Okay.
had a glitch in the agenda system, so we addressed that with our first item.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, then we have covered all the agenda items. Oh, wait, no. We do have a Melissa. Do we have an update from community members? 5A?
I don't think we have any community attendees on this morning.
Okay, awesome. Well, then I will adjourn this meeting on January 27th at 9:56.